start the meeting off and turn it over to Tim and just ask him for a good presentation, sir, if nothing else. So grab the screen if you would.
All right, we'll do that, Greg. And thanks so much for inviting me to speak here this evening. It's great and just so good to see you, Greg. All the years that you spent down here in the K3LR shack, having fun with all the guys that operate here. Over 135 operators have been here throughout the 28 years we've been doing multi-multis. So, boy, I see that WA call sign up there, and that is it brings back a lot of good memories, as you know, Greg. And Lee got a great call sign, and carry on. And let's, and I see there's Greg, NAB, that has just joined us. And so we'll get into it. I'm sitting in front of the 80-meter station here at K3LR. And of course, Greg, NAB, and Greg, KGL, have both been here numerous times to operate. But there's two stations back here. This station here is what we call the 80-meter run station. This is where we call CQ. And this is the only multi-band amplifier here in the shack. It's an Alpha 77DX. It's a single 8877. It was owned by my good friend and silent key K3TUP. And then over here is the multiplier station, or the station that works all the packet spots and all the RBN spots, known as the second station on 80, and it has its own single band 8877 amplifier, and the two operators on 80 sit here. There are 11 stations here at K3LR, and a lot of them are patterned the same. And we'll take a look, and hopefully I'm able to share my screen.
Good.
And, so let's give that a shot and see how that works.
Yep, good.
And hopefully you see that.
Yep.
All okay, Greg?
We are good. QSL.
Okay, good. So even though I've been licensed since 1972, I did not start multi-multi contesting until 1992. So it took 20 years to go from age 12 till the time we had enough hardware here to operate multi-multi. This is a photo of me when I was 13 years old in my bedroom. I had just passed my general class exam. I fell in love with CW from the start. I refer to CW as my first language. I'm on CW every day. Every day. I was on CW every day before the pandemic, and even more active now. On 20 CW at basically at sunrise, during the day, and then in the evenings as well. Sometimes 40 CW, but very active on the air. And one of these QSL cards is very prized to me. Just above my head is LU5HFI, which is Fred Lon, K3ZO, who is still a very dear friend and is chairman of the 3rd Area QSL Bureau. And I'm just so thankful that Fred is still here. He's 81 years old and still getting on the air, working DX every day. But K3LR is located right on the Ohio-Pennsylvania border, and it is equidistant between Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Erie, and Akron, Ohio. It is a 50-minute drive to my work QTH at DX Engineering in Talmadge, which is east of Akron. Although they tell me it's nice, I've not been there in about 5 months. I've been running the company from home as CEO of DX Engineering, and business is quite good and things are running well. So very thankful for that. But we're 1 mile off of the Ohio border. So that's the difference between Zone 5 and Zone 4. And we are the last station that the Europeans here into Europe, but we are the first Zone 5, I believe, that the folks in Japan here. And one of the reasons for success at this QTH is the very rapid drop off towards Europe. From this QTH, we're not what I would call real high. The ground elevation is 1080, but if you're going to Europe from here, there is a riverbed that is down at about 850. So it falls very, very fast in that direction. So the effective height of the antennas towards Europe is quite good, and the takeoff angles are quite good. And the same is true going to Japan. And it's a little flatter going to VKZL in the Caribbean, but the preponderance of QSOs is really in Europe and Japan. And as we say here at K3LR, the money is in Europe. So that's where we make our heyday. Although sometimes we can beat W3LPL as far as European QSOs go on 20 and 40. Normally they do work more on 80 and 160 into Europe. And when conditions are good, we offset that with more Asian QSOs. So taking a look at the northern end of the property, this is where you'll find 4 squares for 10 meters and 20 meters. It's also the 160 meter 5-element parasitic Yagi, a pair of 4 squares on 80 meters. So it's just like stacking Yagis. You get 3 dB more if you stack 4 squares. So there's 2 full-size 4 squares on 80 meters here that are broadside on Europe. And then at the bottom of the photo, it doesn't look that big, but you're going to see some photos. It's huge, the 40-meter tower with the top antenna at 275 feet. In the middle of the property is the 15-meter 4-high Yagi stack, the 10-meter run 4-high Yagi stack, 32 elements, and then the second tallest tower on the property, which is the 20-meter run stack, topping out at 245 feet. So let's take a look at this 40-meter tower. This has 3 full-size 40-meter beams. So the longest element, which is the element on the right-hand side, that's the reflector, is 75 feet long. It weighs 410 pounds. Each one of these antennas, 410 pounds. And the top one is rotated by a large prop pitch from K7NV. The 2 others that are on the side of the Pyrod tower are on K0XG rotators. And so each one of these is 25 square feet of wind load on its own. There are 2 very large 20-meter beams on here for the second station, and then 4 10-meter beams on this tower, all totaled 138 square feet of wind load on a single Pyrod tower that is engineered to take this. And all of the guy wires here at K3LR are Philly strand. So very, non-conductive, very strong. And all of the towers here at K3LR are all Pyrod, which are solid steel leg, very strong commercial quality. This is another shot of that 40-meter tower from my neighbor's house. And so it's very, very important to have great neighbor relations. And I've worked very hard at that. I'm very proud of that. I share a lot of the resources at my property with my neighbors, and they have all been down to the Radio Shack to take a look and see what's going on. So, so far, so good. It's worked out. And just another photo of a little bit of scale, looking at the 40-meter tower against me and the DX barn. And down the bottom part of the tower is 2 10-meter Yagis. And so these 40-meter Yagis that are here, that's 260 feet over 190 feet over 120 feet. These 4-element OWAs. It is the largest 40-meter antenna array in the world. There is nothing that is taller and has more elements than what we have here at K3LR. And I've had stations send me recordings from New Delhi, India, from Bangkok, Thailand, and it is spectacular what this array sounds like over there. In the middle of this tower is a horizontal Waller flag, a rotatable receive antenna for 160 meters. It looks like a 15-meter beam, but there's actually wires between the tips, and these are fiberglass elements. And sometimes this is the best antenna on 160 meters. Not all the time, but sometimes. So it's good to have this in the toolbox. And looking up at the 40-meter tower, you can see the ring rotators that are responsible for turning the antennas around the face of the tower. And you can see just the lattice construction of this very strong 24-inch face tower from Pyrod. Very, very strong, and has been a great stalwart here at K3LR. Going to the 20-meter tower, the tower top is 230 feet, but if you go up the mast to 245, there is a shortened 80-meter dipole. It's 106 feet long, has loading coils out halfway on each half element, and is used to transmit on by the second station on 80 meters. There are 4 6-element 20-meter Yagis, and you're looking at the top one. They start at 230, go to 170, 110, and 50 feet. So it's a 4-high stack on 20, and it again is the largest 20-meter array in the world, and man, does it work. It is a spectacular antenna. And down the side of the 20-meter tower, taking a look at 2 more of the 20-meter Yagis. And in the middle of this tower are 2 Moxons for 40 meters. We use these for the second station on 40 meters. And these are 2-element beams on 40 meters that were designed by W6NL. They have the T elements that do the loading. So physically, they're 46 feet long, but electrically, they look at over 70 feet long. And they're quite effective for their short 22-foot boom. And so there's a stack there at 185 over 120. And taking a look up at the 20-meter tower, again, very strong Pyrod. And the 10-meter tower with the 4 8-element Yagis for 10 meters on the run station. And in 2018, during field day, at 1:30 at night, while we were in the shack with our noise canceling headphones on, one of the neighbors was having a graduation party. One of the fellows that attended that party, a youngster, had a little too much to drink. He came down with the pickup truck from his parents and blasted into one of the guy anchors on the 20-meter tower, and bent the tower, didn't fall over, made a mess of the Yagis, and broke the front axle on the truck. And so Pyrod came out, and they said that the entire tower needed to be replaced and all the antennas. So you see the new tower in the rear and the old tower in the front, and we're stacking the new tower here with a 100-ton crane. And you know it's a big crane when they bring another crane to build the crane. And so this was a massive beast, but worked out really well to set the new Pyrod tower. And again, with Philly strand guy wires. This is the top plate on the 230-foot 20-meter tower. You can see that those are solid. This is 1 inch and 1 1/8 inch solid round that make up the legs, and of course all the X bracing, just tremendously strong, these Pyrod towers. And the DX Engineering TB300 plate. Here are 2 out of the 4 20-meter Yagis. They sort of look like 2-meter beams, but they're huge. There's 50-foot booms and 6-element monobanders on 20 meters. And here is the top one going into place using the crane, and going up the tower. And now the crane is setting the 6-element 20-meter beam at the top of the tower with the Tri-County Tower guys. And the steps there are so that we can climb up to the top and get to the 80-meter dipole on the mast. And you see the beacon on the right-hand side there, and the guys working on the 20-meter tower to get this antenna. We used FaceTime to transmit the images from the Rig Expert AA54 to do the sweep right from the top of the tower. So I didn't have to go off the ground, and I could see what the sweep looked like right from the ground. Speaking of big, this is the driven element on the 40-meter Yagis. This is 2.5 inches OD. You can see the very thick Lexon insulator in the middle. And this is the feed point where the feed line choke goes for the 40-meter Yagi. And you can see also the very thick Garolite plate that is used on 40 meters. Back in 2019, a year ago, we replaced the 4-element 40-meter beams with newer designs and all new hardware. And this is taking a look at the element sag. It's about 3 feet, which is quite good for 40 meter elements. And you can see just how close the first director is to the driven element. And that's part of the optimized wideband array, or OWA, which was invented by my very good friend, Dr. Jim Brakall, WA3FET at Penn State University. And so here is the 410-pound monster 4-element 40-meter beam. This was one of 3 that went up. Of course, we had to bring back that big-ass crane again. And so this is 2019. Here it is going up to get the top 4-element 40 and bring the new one up. And what a beautiful sight. And so everything's looking good. We have 4 geochron clocks down here in the shack. This is the largest one. It's on an 84-inch 4K Ultra high definition TV. This is the best TV in the house and is dedicated 24/7 to being a geochron. I love these geochrons. I had a lot to do with getting call signs, or actually prefixes and zones put on the geochron, and very proud of the relationship that geochron and DX Engineering have together. We don't have much in the way of VHF here, but you never know it from our feed lines. On our VHF areas on 21 megahertz and 28 megahertz, we use 1.5/8 heliacs to minimize the losses. And on 160 meters, we also have 1.5/8 because the antenna is so far away from the shack. This is a 120-foot tower for 160 meters, and most guys would be just thrilled to have a full-size quarter wave on 160. But this has 4 parasitic wires around it, and each one of these parasitics is tuned as a director. Now, if you float these guys, you pick them up above ground, they're invisible. Floating quarter wave is gone. But if you take that yellow one on the right-hand side and you ground it, now you've got a director. You take the left-hand yellow one and you put a small coil in series with it, it becomes a reflector. So you have a reflector, the driven element is the tower, and then the director out in front. That's a 3-element parasitic vertical Yagi aimed on Europe. And then the 2 blue elements are floating. And so with relays at the bottoms of these T wires, we can go 4 different directions instantaneously with 5.5 dB of forward gain and about 32 dB of front to back. So quite a good antenna on 160. This is the bottom of one of those parasitic wires. It too has a full radial system of 120 radials that are 125 feet long. And this is the driven element Pyrod tower. It actually has 3 radial rings. Each radial ring is 120 radials. There are 360 radials underneath this puppy. So there's not much in the way of ground loss. And you can see the 1.5/8 hard line that is feeding this thing. And it's on a AM broadcast ceramic insulator. And the tower actually floats so that it won't break the insulator. And this is an outstanding 160 meter transmit array, and we also use it for receive. There have been 2 different CQ Worldwide CW weekends when we have worked more than 100 countries on 160 meters in 48 hours. Wow. So it's been a spectacular array. The best all-time QSO ever from K3LR occurred this past January, when in the CQ Worldwide 160 meter contest, we worked Mongolia on 160. And so
I worked him last year, Tim.
that is that's the best we've got a lot of other good QSOs from here, but working JT5DX was awesome. This is the radial system under the 80-meter verticals, and there are 8 of them, 2 4-squares. Here are the center 4 towers, and you can see the broadcast style strap. And I've recently replaced what were high towers with universal tower, which is made up in Michigan. These are aluminum towers, and they're 60 feet long. They're cut in half here, and then we welded them on site. All the sections are welded together. So everything is welded, minimum loss, and just outstanding verticals now with the universal tower. And here we are tweaking in the stingers on top to make sure that we get the exact resonance for each one of these 8 verticals for the 80-meter 2 4-squares. And here they are mounted on the new DX Engineering insulators. Just beautiful. I love shiny aluminum.
Wow.
And quite a sight here to have 8 verticals on 80 meters. Here's all the test equipment that it takes to make sure that everything is lined up correctly. And my good friend Greg W8WWB has spent many days down here helping me align these arrays using the Comtech Systems 4-square boxes. And we also have 4-squares on 20 meters, on 15 meters, and also for 160 and 80 meters, we have the High Z 8-circle receiving array. These are 23-foot verticals with preamps at the base of each vertical. In the center of the vertical array is this control box, which was formerly owned by the great Doc Scheller, K3LR, KN8Z, when he was down in Canal, Winchester. And he gave me this box, and so we put it to good use to put all the combining equipment. You can see the coaxial delay lines, and this is all High Z hardware. And this is high CMI chokes to make sure that all the feed lines and power lines are choked down. And here I am working with my great friend Tim, W3YQ. We've been friends for 48 years. We met on ADCW as novices when we were 12 years old, and we've been lifelong great friends ever since. And so thrilled that Tim is here several weekends out of the year. We're working together on hooking everything up and making sure that this array works well. This is the base of one of those receiving verticals. You can see the size of the aluminum. It doesn't take much to be 23 feet tall. Inside the box is the preamp and the 2 chokes to make sure that those shields on the outside of the RG6 cable stay dead cold. And all the preamps we have a 4-square receive array and also the 8-circle. So lots of preamps. This is the inside choke. This is number 31 material with 27 turns of small 75 ohm coax. This is the house at K3LR. It's a completely restored Civil War house built in 1865. And everything has been added: electricity, running water, toilets, air conditioning, and a world-class amateur radio station, all added to this period home, complete with the Marconi stairs. When you go from the first floor to the second floor, when I visited the Marconi place out in Connecticut, I took pictures of the stairs and all of the unique outlines, and we completely replicated that here. So every night I go to bed thinking of Marconi. And we have a 50 kilowatt service transformer from the Pennsylvania Power Company. If that fails, we have a 50 kW generator from Kohler. That's an 8-cylinder Chevy engine, natural gas powered. And if we lose power, it's an automatic transfer over. 7 seconds later, we're back up and running. And we've never had that happen during a DX contest, but if it happens, we are ready. And this is the inside shack at K3LR, 11 operating positions. There are 2 on every contest band, except for 160 only has 1. This is the 80-meter positions on the left. 160 is in the rear. And we have 2 entrances for our hard lines and coax cables, control cables, and busy area. Everything is labeled and cataloged and kept in a notebook. There are 13 ground rods in the floor right underneath the radios and amplifiers. So we have a good ground. Everything is CAD welded, and we attract some of the top operators from around the world, people like N0AX and K1DG, and K1DG loves 15 meters, but conditions have been pretty poor here the last couple of years, but things are going to get better. Dan N6MJ has been here 15 different times. He's one of the best contest operators in the world. This was back in 2017, and K3UA and N6MJ had back-to-back 340 hours on 15 meters to Europe. It was just spectacular. And the recordings of that are on the K3LR website under contest photos. So you can listen to these magical hours of 340 each hour, 680 contacts in 2 hours. This is the 10-meter second station with the 4 rotators. I'm very fond of the Green Heron RT21s, very, very good rotator controls. And these are our push button antenna controls. This is for the 3 high 40-meter stack at 260 over 190 over 120. And in this case, the all switch has been selected. So 1/3 of the power is going to each one of these antennas currently. And here's the stack box for 15 run, and the 4 high stack on 15, and TV Bob and N6AN on 15 CW. They've been holding down the 15-meter fort for years here during CQ Worldwide. And so in this case, the 15 run guys are sending power to the bottom 3 antennas, 120 over 80 over 40. And they also have a heads-up display on their W4 watt meter, letting them know which antennas are being fed. And I really like the Drake W4, but we wore out the 50-year-old connectors. So we replaced all the SO239s with brand new silver-plated Amphenol's. And DL1QQ brought a mug from Germany. It says size matters. And here's the rotor controls for the 3 high stack on 40 meters at 260 over 190 over 120. And it does matter. This is a tremendous station on 40. And here's a view of one of the single band amplifiers. It's a single 8877. I'm very particular about running just the legal power at 1500 watts. And each one of these amplifiers has its own 4,000 volt power supply on the floor. This is the 20-meter run position. You can see the 4 rotor boxes and the single band amplifier, and the ICOM IC7850 is used in that run slot. And this is shown with the second station on 20 meters, 2 amplifiers, 2 different antenna systems for 20. Here's 10 meters, and George N3GJ is our main 10-meter guy. Last season, there was a weekend he only worked 22 contacts on 10 meters, but he didn't complain at all. And he's just looking forward to the big runs here in a few years on 10. This is the 160-meter position. I operate the CWDX contest. 160 is my responsibility. And on phone, it's John N2NC. And some of the receiving controls for 160. There's the horizontal Waller flag, the HWF, and of course the DX Engineering NCC. And we also have YLs that operate here, such as Sandy DL1QQ from Northern Germany. She's one of the best contest operators in the world, and has been here several times to help pilot wins. And we use the Bose QC15 headphones here. The ICOM IC7851 is in every position here in the station. We have 11 of them online and 2 spares. I'm happy to report that we've never had to use the spares. We beat the heck out of these radios in a contest, and we've never been able to break them. They've been just very, very reliable. This is my friend Al N5UM, who comes in from Oklahoma City. He's operated here now for the better part of 20 years, and he and I do 75 meters together. This is Al at 4:30 in the morning, catching a power nap after European sunrise. And this is also a good view of our newest computers for logging. This is the Intel NUC on the back of the monitor there. It's 4 inches by 4 inches by 1.5 inches thick. It runs on 12 volts. It's RFI quiet. It is absolutely great as a Windows computer. Another view of another NUC. And on 80 meters, we're able to share the 4 squares between the 2 stations using the 80 meter Qsl Twin Turbo Plus 2. This is a design that came from WWV that allows us to swap that 4 square seamlessly between the stations, and it works very well. We have high power harmonic filters here that were originally part of the K2GL N2AA station, manufactured many years ago by Chesterfield. They are the size of caskets. And so we have said this is where harmonics go to die. And they work very well at beating down the harmonics that allow us to operate very efficiently. When operators aren't operating, they're hanging out at the DX barn. And this is a sign I found in Sulphur, Oklahoma, when I lived in Oklahoma City for 14 years, from the DX Gas Company. And I hunted down the owner. I bought the sign, had it shipped to Western Pennsylvania, and it's on the DX barn. And we light it up at the end of every contest, win or lose. We light this sign up. I think the sign is probably 60 years old and still looks great. Inside the DX barn is a full kitchen, bathroom, several toilets, and sleeping for 8. And in the back of the sleeping area is my Qsl Card Collection, over 150,000 Qsl cards. And I've asked for an extra large size coffin because I want these Qsl cards to go with me at the end so that I can sort these buggers finally. So, great memories for the past 48 years of contest operating from at K3LR, and some more of the operators here at K3LR recently, BE3EJ and N2NT and K1AR, and a relaxing KM3T in the middle of the night on 20 meters. And we use the DX Engineering foot switch on SSB. This is our lockout box that we use on the 2 stations on a band to make sure that only 1 transmitter at a time is on the air. And we also have a little aluminum box that shows you when the run station is transmitting. When it's red, that means that the mult station will be locked out. If he tries to transmit, it's not going to work. And another photo, this is the 20 mult box with the 4 square controls integrated in. And again, the guys come here to have a good time. And here's Otis, NP4G, who comes and operates ARL DX phone. He's fluent in Portuguese, Spanish, and English. And very, very great guy. He's a dentist back in Puerto Rico, and likes to have a good time with George. And here's Justin, G4TSH, who comes every year in November, probably not this year, from London, England. And Justin has a great time here. And so get to see most of the operators operating right here. Most of the positions are running, and you can see the overall atmosphere here at K3LR. And so last year, the lady in the rear of this photo had an idea. She said, I'd like to bring 5 of my friends to K3LR. We're all teenagers, and we'd like to operate the WPX phone contest. And I thought, oh, sure, it'll never happen. So I said, yeah, go after it. Well, she did. And she organized Team Exuberance. And in the foreground is Bryant, KG5HVO, a very good CW operator and a great contester. And here's VE7DZO and K6JO. They also came along. And they, you know, you think after a contest is over, they'd be wanting to eat and then go to sleep. Here they are after the WPX contest is over, and they're handwriting thank you notes to everybody that donated to the GoFundMe campaign that allowed them to fly to K3LR. And so these kids were great. We had 3 of the parents here, and what a great experience this was. Marty NN1C had a playbook that he said, here's the plan. If we really go at this and really go hard at it and everything works out, we want to work 3,800 QSOs. And so they presented this plan to me, and I said, boy, that's ambitious. That's really ambitious. I don't know. And all the kids made all the contacts. I didn't make one QSO. None of the parents made QSOs. They worked over 6,000 QSOs that weekend.
Wow.
They were #1 in the United States in multi-2, and #1 in North America, and #4 in the world. And a bunch of kids. So it was one of the best things I've ever done here, was to host these young, upcoming great hams. And they had planned to come back for WPXCW in May. Of course, we know that didn't work out, but they're going to be, I hope to God they can come back here in May 2021 and have a good time. And as kids are, you wouldn't believe how different they look today, just a year later, a year and a half later. But I can't wait for May next year. They're all hotshot CW operators now. Bryant can copy over 60 words a minute, and so I'm very excited to host Team Exuberance in 2021. Here's Michael, W3MLJ, 16 years old, from Pittsburgh. During the 13 Colony event, we hosted K2M here at K3LR a year ago. We have lots of visitors here at K3LR. Here's a guy from Finland that came with his father. He said he came to the US to do 2 things. He wanted to see New York City, and he wanted to see K3LR. So he spent the night at K3LR, got on the air, worked some OHs in Finland, and he was a happy guy. And we got the white glove treatment here. The guy on the right-hand side, that's Riley, K4ZDH, formerly from the FCC. He gave the place a white glove and said, pass with flying colors. And our friend Hal, W8HC, very accomplished de-expeditioner who visited here at the same time. I'm big in analytics. We record all of our QSOs and multipliers every year, how we stack up against the competition, where we can do better. And it has been a tremendous ride. And there was a station in W1 back in 1992 when I was building this multi-multi, and he said, I don't know why you're doing this. You'll never win. You'll never win multi-multi. Well, 41 wins later, that's still up on the locker, you know, you'll never win. And for CW, we have the CW skimmers. We used to use these mainframe type computers, but now we use the NUCs to power the SDR receivers for the CW skimmer. We have one Perseus receiver for each band, 160, 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10. And boy, they do a great job. And we contribute all our information to the reverse beacon network, and lots of RFI suppression on the NUCs, and a common power supply, linear power supplies. There are no wall warts. There are no iPhone chargers, nothing. This is a wall wart free zone here at K3LR. You come with a wall wart or an iPhone charger, it will be confiscated at the front gate and given back to you at the end of the contest. But we want no noise from those devices. We have great coffee. We brew it 1 cup at a time using the Flavius system. And we have less junk food than we did when Greg was here. We tried to clean up our act. And Sal, WM2H, is our chef. He's a great contest operator, but he loves to cook more than he likes to operate. So he comes in to smoke things and cook things and make sure that we eat very well here at K3LR. I make breakfast on CW, and 2NC makes breakfast on phone, and we enjoy doing that. And 2NC has always said, an army travels on its stomach. So we eat well. WindTest is our logging software that we use here. Very reliable, written by French rocket scientists. It doesn't crash. It doesn't give us any heartburn. It just works. And boy, here, I love this photo here. This is a little JA run on 160 meters during this, I believe it was the CQ Worldwide contest. And you can also see working E2A, which is Thailand, on 40. This is very early in the morning. So great stuff when conditions are just right. And so WindTest takes care of computing our score. This is more like it, almost 13,000 QSOs. And this, of course, is in the CQ Worldwide SSB contest. Look at those 10-meter numbers. 38 zones in 170 countries. You got to love that. I can't wait till that comes back. And I'm a voracious QSLer. We are on LOTW and EQSL. And the first time you work us on a band mode, you also get a paper card. I like the K3LR t-shirts. After the contests, we meet on the real 3830 and exchange scores with other multi stations, typically W3LPL and a few others. And we pretty much know who's going to win within a few minutes after the contest. We have just started to operate the RTTY contest here in the last 3 years, and we've been doing pretty well. Sometimes we win a plaque. And this is what a typical crew looks like. ILTHRS. I love this ham radio stuff. And so it's a very talented, good crew, and I'm very thankful for all these operators that travel to K3LR. Here's a CW crew from 2014 and recently in 2018, and including K1TO and K5GN and a lot of great CW operators. And the real reason we do this, we're best friends. And we really enjoy getting together. There's sometimes on Friday night when we're getting ready to operate a contest, everybody's sitting around having dinner and they say, can't we just BS all weekend? Do we really have to go down and operate the radios? I'm very proud of that the K3LR station hosts over 20 tours every year from clubs and individuals. And this is the University of Pittsburgh Pitt Panther W3YI Amateur Radio Club. They recently visited K3LR. We hung out, looked at the antennas, talked about the radios, talked about going to college, talked about getting a job and real life afterwards, spent a whole Saturday together. And this is what it's all about, giving back and having fun with the best hobby in the world. And with that, we can open it up, Greg, for any questions, and I'll stop sharing here.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim. Of course, the obvious question is, when are you going to get serious about the hobby? But we'll forego that. Yeah.
I'm doing my best.
So, how soon you're going to have solid state amps, Tim?
You know, I keep thinking that we're getting right there, that we might do it. And I'm just not convinced that there's enough reliability there, and I'm not convinced they're clean enough to survive in this environment. But I think probably in the next 3 or 4 years, Greg, we'll get there.
Okay, sounds good.
A question for you, Tim, and thank you for that just fantastic presentation. Your enthusiasm comes through with everything you say about it. It's very, very cool. When obviously the station has evolved over the years. Do you is this kind of an ad hoc process, or do you plan out, like 2 years from now we're going to do this major change, and then another 2 years after that? How do you approach that?
So I like to believe, and I've taken a lot of time to make this a very well-engineered station. There is a plan. For instance, this year the plan was to replace 12 Yagis. Some of them were 25 years old, and that plan has been executed and finished already. We did 7 new Yagis on 10 meters, 4 new ones on 15, and 1 new one on 6. And so there is an evolution. I hope someday that I can put one more tower up to have the 80-meter Yagi, a stack of 80-meter Yagis. That's a box on the bucket list called, do you have a stack of 80-meter Yagis? Yes. And so I'd like to do that. But yeah, there is constantly work going on here. I have a tower crew that is here 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, our tower crew days. And we are either maintaining what we have or doing things that make the station better. So there's a very well-defined, well-honed project list, and we execute that. We push forward on all fronts, and even while I lived in Oklahoma City for 14 years, we were continually improving, and we were operating DX contests from here.
If I could follow up on that for just a second, other than the 80-meter stack, what are some of the things that you're excited about, you know, as far as next steps over the next year or so, next year or two?
You know, I'm always excited about receiving arrays. I think we're working on a design for a 5-element inline and receiving antenna for 160 meters that should have 16 dB of RDF, which would beat what we have now. We have about 14 dB of RDF to Europe. And so that hearing weak signals in Europe on 160 and 80 meters is really where there is the most to gain here. There isn't much more we can do on 40 and 20, and really 15 and 10 is at the mercy of sunspots. We have very big arrays here. So the real work that I'm focused on for what I think is the final 25 years of my run. I'm 60 years old now. I hope I make it to 85. We called that replacement Yagi project this summer, Project 25, which is let's do these 12 Yagis so that we don't have to touch them again for the next 25 years. But it's all about listening and receiving capability on 80 and 160, Dave.
Jim, I have a
That's great.
question.
Thank you.
It looks like a real lightning magnet. What happens with lightning?
So everything is disconnected, especially in the summertime. You know, those little element preamps are all taken out. They're safely in the barn, and all of the cabling and everything is just disconnected here in the shack. So that minimizes damage, doesn't guarantee that a rotor, you know, won't get taken out, or one of the RF switches that is on the tower won't get taken out. And that does happen from time to time. But things are very well bonded and very well grounded here, Terry. So the damage is normally very minimal. We had a very bad lightning event on Monday. It was a bad storm that went on all day with lots of lightning, and there were lightning shots all around us. There was no damage here whatsoever.
Tim, can you listen in band on 160 while you're transmitting?
No, we currently only have one station on 160, so we don't even attempt to try that. I probably could. I have the technology that could do that. We do it very effectively on 80 meters. We can listen in band on 80. We can get within about 8 kilohertz of the run station.
Wow.
Receiving on that vertical array?
Yes.
Hey, Tim.
Is that with the, go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead, Dave.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Tim, I missed the first half hour. Sorry. I'm 70 years old, so that's why. How do you like your horizontal Waller flag?
Hi, Steve. Sometimes it's the best antenna. I would say it's somewhere between in 10 to 15% of the time. There was one night I remember in the CQ Worldwide CW. I think it was a Friday night. It was the best antenna to Europe all night long. And if I hadn't had that antenna, the number of European QSOs would have been significantly less. So, but then there's times that it's not the antenna. It's just, it's another tool in the toolbox.
Well, it's horizontally polarized. That probably is your only horizontal receive antenna, right?
That is true. And therefore, it's most effective normally right at gray line when the sun is around. But just because I think it's got a little higher angle than the vertical stuff, but sometimes it's just magical. And it's got great nulls. So from a noise perspective, it's very broad off the front, but it's got some really sharp nulls. So for instance, the best direction to go to Europe is not 45 degrees, it's 60 degrees because it lines itself up in a null for the noise.
Oh, yeah, yeah. How high is it?
160 feet.
I've got a 220-foot tower that I was thinking about putting one of those up because I've got a small lot with lots of vertical stuff on it, and I have a feeling it would do me a lot of good sometimes. I just put up one of your W8JI 8-circle arrays. Of course, it's only 7 elements now because a deer already got it. I'm gonna have to figure out what to do about that. But yeah, I really think. By the way, do you use that on both 80 and 160, or just one of the bands?
No, we use it on both bands. There's a piece that High Z has called an ASC, and what it is that the feed line comes from each vertical, and through a magic T, actually splits it in half. So the verticals are split in half. And so I have an 80-meter chain and a 160-meter chain.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so the 160 and 80-meter guys both have 8-position control boxes, but neither of them knows where the other is, and it just is, you know, seamless.
Yeah, yeah. Just one other question. This will be it. On the 8-circle array, I notice when I switch from one direction to another, there's a loud pop. Is there any way to solve that?
What receiver are you using?
Right, I've got it on a FTDX 101 right now, and the only thing I can do is put the AGC on fast to get around that, but it still is very noticeable.
Yeah, that's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
And try not to pay attention to it. It's part of relay switching, Steve.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Great, great presentation, Tim.
Yes, excellent. Excellent.
One comment from me, Tim. One time when I didn't know where you were located, I was coming back from Al Katz's place in New Jersey, K3LR, and I happened to take that expressway that goes by your house. And I looked over and I thought, what in God's name is this?
Yeah.
It's a crazy guy.
Yeah.
So, and I finally figured out who it was. Amazing.
Thank you, Lee.
Yeah.
Tim?
Well, very good.
Quick question for you. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you solved interference between all the stations?
Boy, that's a full-time job in itself. There's a lot to that. A lot of it is grounding and bonding. I spent a lot of time getting that right, and that made a huge difference. Of course, bandpass filters on the outputs of each radio, Pi-L networks on the amplifiers, high power harmonic filters on the outputs, and and using very high quality radios. Those are, you know, at the high level. There's a lot of other stuff that I've done with ferrite. I mean, I just recently discovered that some of the control lines between the power amplifiers and the amplifier contribute to interstation interference. So that prompted a whole new shielded cable ferrite bypass capacitors to knock that down. So even though I've spent the better part of 30 years beating that down, I'm still beating the monster down. And the better we get at beating that down, the better that in-band receive capability is, and the more effective the second station is.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Dave and I were talking recently about your post on your 80 meter vertical array versus your rotary dipole, mentioning that just a floor square beats out your 275-foot dipole. And Dave did do some modeling on it and said, boy, that's vertical polarization or the right angle or whatever. And quite impressive what you can do at the floor square.
It really is. You know, I'm not sure that Fred Collins knew just how groundbreaking it was back in the 60s when he and Dana Hatchley were working on four squares, but what a magical antenna that is. And, you know, yeah, I want to have 80 meter Yagis, but those verticals are so easy to keep going. And for the investment, you know, even if you just use the verticals that are made out of aluminum tubing or wires that guys hang off the towers, it's a game changer for 80. It just really is. You know, you get gain, you get front to back, and you know, to think that with a pair of four squares from Western Pennsylvania and 230 miles away in Baltimore, Maryland is W3LPL, and we're able to keep up on 80 meters with that. So, you know, he's got full-size quads. So just sitting there on the East Coast. And I've heard the recordings, I've seen the differences in the RBN, and for what we have here, I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah. And of course, a good radial system is a good thing.
That's the secret sauce.
Yeah.
That is the difference maker, is to have that. Without that great radial system, we would be absolutely behind times.
Yep. Yeah. Sounds good. Very good. Thank you, Tim, on behalf of everyone.
Well, thanks very much for having me. And if any of you guys have radio needs, I hope you'll think of DX Engineering. We try very hard every day to help amateur radio operators all around the world, but especially those in Michigan. And we're extremely fond of DXers.
Thank you.
I try to make sure that we stock the stuff that you guys want, and we stock the stuff that I use, and we try to make sure from the DX Engineering brand and Comtech and Cycle 24, Butternut, that we deliver best-in-class products. And if you have any questions, I've got a great sales team that is made up of active guys that are on the air working DX. Most all of them have at least a DXCC. Some of them are on the honor roll. So you're not going to be talking to a schmuck with a shack on the belt. I got real good guys that are really into the hobby and can help you and answer your questions. And you can always find me. You go to my website, K3LR.com, and there's a button there that says email K3LR. Email me, and most of the time you're going to hear back from me within 24 to 48 hours. And I'll do whatever I can to help you have fun in the greatest hobby in the world.
Good.
Great to have you as close as you are, Tim, because you get stuff to us in Michigan in the day or two at the most.
Yeah, you know, actually, that was a problem, Terry. 2 years ago at Dayton, we had a fella that on Friday, he came up to the DX Engineering booth and he bought an ICOM radio, and we didn't have it there at the show. So he said, oh, just ship it to me, that'll be fine. I live in Michigan, you know, and we said, okay. So Saturday morning, he came back to the booth and he was mad. I mean, his face was red and almost smoke coming out his ears. He was all mad. He said, I can't believe what you guys just did. He says, you got me in trouble. I can't go back home. I bought that radio from you yesterday here on Friday at the booth, and it showed up and my wife got it this morning, Saturday morning. And I didn't tell her it was coming. So, we love shipping to Michigan because that's normally a one-day shot for us, Terry. Now, these days with the virus, it can go on for 2 or 3 days. But once we get back to normal, it's back to just about one-day shipping into most of Michigan.
Yeah.
This is Bill. I'm AH6FC. I'm in Hawaii, so I'm not in Michigan, though I started out there a million years ago. And I've been in the process of putting up a 4-square for 40 and little by little buying things from you. But my comment is a couple of years ago, you were just shipping UPS or FedEx. And now recently you've been using the post office. And for us in the hinterlands, that's a huge savings. The shipping is so much better with the post office. It's still a lot, but compared to FedEx or UPS, it's probably half. So it's appreciated.
Very good. We love shipping to Hawaii.
Yeah, and it usually takes 4 or 5 days, so it's not bad.
That's not too bad at all.
Thanks so much, Tim.
Good. Thanks, Tim.
All right, you guys are very welcome. I'm going to go off to the KB6NU Aero Michigan meeting now, where my good friend Michael Coulter, WHCI, is speaking. Michael is the Chief Financial Officer for the Hamvention, and he is running for ARRL Great Lakes Division Director. And Michael is a good friend of mine and a great amateur radio operator and a great human being. So when you get your ballots in a few weeks, I hope you vote. We need good leadership at ARRL, and Michael would be a good choice. So I'm going to go off to that meeting. Greg, thank you very much for your kind invitation.
Thank you.
I hope to see
you.
all of you again at Hamvention. Let's get rid of this virus. Let's get a vaccine, and let's get back to getting together, okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tim.
All right.
See you Saturday, Tim.
Take care.
All righty. See you on the air.
Yep.
Bye-bye.